"What say you?" repeated the voice. Before I could turn around to see the owner of this voice, the figure had swiftly darted across and grabbed hold of Jenny by the neck. I turned to face him. It was the doctor from the hospital. History was repeating itself. So obviously he's going around, and he also picks up other people as he's going around. He finds other survivors. One is Jenny, and they meet up with Harkin later on, and the Overgates, a couple who are getting redoing their wedding vows. But he also meets a lot of nasty characters like Dr. Valentine, who isn't a doctor at all, or it's suggested that he might have been some form of doctor, probably in abortion clinics, because he mentions something later on to do with Mrs. Overgate, who's heavily pregnant. And Valentine takes him at one time, and he will explain his mindset now, and he also knows a lot about what's going on. He seems to know a little bit of what's going on. And he, James, and I think James Harkin, the Overgates, meet Dr. Valentine when he's in the hospital, and Jenny. And he's doing experiments on people, and it's not too clear whether, he claims, a bit like I think Dr. Moreau does in H.G. Wells's Island of Dr. Moreau, that he wants to try and find a cure for this disease, but it's never too clear, and I don't think he really is. He's more interested in the power he's now got and the pain he can inflict on other people. Some people, when they find out they've got nothing to lose, they don't care what they inflict on other people. They lose that consciousness of other people's feelings and suffering, and so this is what he's going on. There are also other characters that come from the Scraggs. There's some strange things I noticed while writing this, which happened, which I mentioned in with the Night Collection. Some strange things happened in The Truth concerning Gerald Higgins, the Night Wains of Gerald Higgins. There are a few plane crashes written into this story, and when I was writing them, a lot of plane crashes happened at the time. I think there was about 3 or 4 in a few months, which was very unusual. Yeah, it was probably a coincidence, but it's a little bit of interesting information you can go and check out. This was obviously written last year. I think it was 2005. Was it 2000? Did I start 2004? No, I think it was 2005. I think Night Collection 2004. The other thing about it, obviously, there was a time when I stopped writing it in between. I think it might have been when the July the 7th bombing happened. And there are also bits that refer to the World Trade Center, September the 11th, because there's a bit where, I think there's, after I saw a documentary, there's a bit where you see James is in a large, tall building. These people he's met before, who are rebels now, and they blow up this hotel because the Prime Minister, or the Premier as he's called in this time, and they blow it up, and he's at the top, and this building falls down, and he survives it. Obviously, there are a lot of things that are in it are based on things I've seen and things that people talked about while I was writing it. So obviously that was a subject that's been mentioned a lot at the time, September 11th and terrorists and etc. So there are bits of that in there. The other strange bit was I wrote a poem which I gave a date, and I gave the date, I think 7th of October is the date of the poem. In it, it mentions that something happens on, I think it's the day after or the day before, I don't remember, which would make it the 6th or the 8th. And in it, what happens is the ground rolls up and lava comes down, etc. It kills some people. Don't want to give too much away. But then, this was written, I picked that date. I'd written it, this part in maybe August, and I picked that date, October. Purely random, I'm not claiming I got anything from it. But then, on that date, I think it was either the 6th or 8th, whichever one it was, there was a, I think that was when the tsunami happened. Not the tsunami, was it an earthquake? Something happened, I can't remember now. Not much good to really tell you this story if I don't remember what it was. But that was a strange thing, because it actually happened in the because in the story on the 7th of October, there's two brothers, and they do something nasty to the good brother, and the next day they have the earthquake. That's why in the real world, on the day after, as at that very moment, a rumble noise boomed. The floor began to shake. I fell to my knees, my hands on the floor. I could feel the very earth beneath me, rumbling, shaking, throbbing. It was an eerie sensation. With that, I bolted upright and began to run as fast as I could. As I did so, I heard the familiar noise of screams. I heard windows breaking, bricks falling and breaking to the ground. I continued to run as the soil below rippled. Sounds a bit more interesting than the Dead Sea does. It was a bit vague. I don't think it was tsunami, it was some other earthquake. Maybe it happened in Asia somewhere. Don't rightly remember. So there's probably not really much point me telling you about this strange happening when I'm so vague that it could be almost anything. But it was more specific. If I remember the details, then I'll have to tell you. Anyway, when I was writing The Dead City, obviously I picked up a lot of ideas that went on. Usually when I'm writing, I don't have the end until I get midway in, and then I get this idea. I think I had two ideas for how it could go, and then I just see how it goes. Basically, that's how I write it anyway. So there might be little small mistakes in it as it goes along. Also, I think there are a few mistakes I noticed as I was reading it, but I didn't have time to change them. Some of them I changed as I was reading it. That's why you might see me have a few pauses. Some of I think there was a bit where the tense changed. It was a woman explaining. This bit I got from when I watched the program about the bombing of Nagasaki, the first nuclear bomb. And a woman who is alive recounts that experience to sort of parallel how the two are similar. And she's talking in, I think it's explaining, and then it goes into first person. So it goes from third to first, something like that. So anyway, do excuse those small mistakes and errors. Like a working draft, really. But anyway, I think it's an interesting story. It's got a lot of different subjects mentioned in it. There's a bit about morality, racism, modernity, society, humanity. There's lots of these different areas. They're all mixed up. Lots of different characters in them, and it's one of the stories where you can just watch a part and then you can leave it and then come back to it. It's like a road movie, but like a journey. Anyway, I think I've sold that enough. Please do check out The Dead City, and I hope you enjoy that. Okay, thank you very much.